opening words are borrowed from Reverend Lane Mayraid Campbell, and our closing words will be from the same source. We are here, coming out of the cold into the warmth of this place, clearing our minds and hearts as we begin, open to gratitude for this day and every day, knowing that each life is precious and that our lives are worth listening to. And so, bearing witness both to the world as it is and as love can imagine it, we would claim that vision of a just world in our own lives. And because of a growing sense of kinship with all beings, inviting our compassion, we begin in this celebration to engage our mission with our whole lives, body, mind, and heart. We will begin with a very deliberate rendition of The Dance of Life by Claude Debussy. Thank you, Dinah. Welcome, everyone, on this Sunday, 2 days after Halloween. I hope yours was sweet. Did anyone get visited by fairies or other wee folk? Yeah. I'm sure you were generous. We have a story this morning in which fairies play a role, and we're going to consider seriously the role that spirituality, and in particular mysticism, can helpfully play in the lives of our ultra-rational selves. If you haven't already, please silence your cell phones now. This is also the morning after the church auction, but I haven't heard that we have a report yet. Is there one? No? 12,500. Thank you. Thank you. In other announcements, on Saturday, November 8th at 2 p.m., a celebration of the life of Gretchen de Armand will be held here at UUCWI in this sanctuary. Gretchen was an accomplished musician and a friend of this congregation for many years. All are welcome. You'll find additional announcements inside your order of service and on the new kiosk in the foyer. My name is Dave Kaufman. It is my pleasure to serve as lay worship leader for this service this morning. We are privileged to have as our guest speaker Tom Ewell, a distinguished member of the Society of Friends group that meets here on Sunday afternoons, and I'm pleased that we have a few of his colleagues in the audience today. Tom has served most of his career as an ecumenical, interfaith, and Quaker peace and justice advocate at the state, regional, and national levels. He is an expert on civil rights, welfare policy, criminal justice, penal reform, restorative justice, anti-war, and disarmament issues. He writes a weekly blog, the Saturday Evening Post, and if you want to sign up for that, which I highly recommend, the link is listed in your order of service. Tom serves on the board of Quaker Voice, a statewide Friends and Peace and Justice lobby based in Olympia. Welcome, Tom. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to newcomers. You will find our principles and sources on the back of the order of service. Please let us know what we can do to help you feel at home here. There are hearing assist devices in the rear of the room and a large print copy of our hymnals if that would help you. Each of our services is different, so if today isn't your cup of tea, please keep an open mind and come back next week. I'm quite sure you'll find this to be a community that is loving, engaged, and thoughtful. I'd also like to express gratitude on your behalf to Dinah Stinson for accompanying our hymns and providing our special music today. Dallas and Judy for being our greeters. Avery and Dennis for ushering. Tom Pocock for being our sound technician today. Gay and Mark Simpson for the coffee and refreshments today. Carol Bingman for lighting our chalice. And Sue Abbott for this spectacular altar flower arrangement. We honor the indigenous peoples on whose ancestral land we gather. I encourage you to read the information that the Native Connection Group posts in our weekly e-news and check their monthly newsletter for information and events. Now, if you would please take a deep breath and center yourself, we'll begin our worship. A word that our former minister, Reverend Kit Ketchum, liked to remind us originally meant shaping worth. Our flaming chalice is a symbol of Unitarian Universalism, a fire reminding us of warm hearts around warm hearths. It connects us with each other and with the 1,000 other Unitarian Universalist congregations in the country. A light penetrating a world of darkness. It illumines our individual spiritual pathways. A metaphor representing wisdom. It evokes the brightness and clarity that truth and understanding provide. A beacon of justice, shining across the turbulent waters of human affairs. It proclaims the equal rights of all persons. A spark of possibility, igniting hope. It emanates an evanescent prayer for a brighter future filled with enlightenment and peace. All this we invoke as we kindle this small flame, consecrating this space and this time together. Thank you, Carol. Please rise and speak together our affirmation and stay standing for our first hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit. Thank you. You may be seated. We UUs think of ourselves as pretty rational most of the time, but there are alternative ways that humans understand the world that are far older than science. And isn't a lot of what draws us to church on Sundays to do with awe and wonder and the emotional appreciation of music and community? Can we be both rational and spiritual? Is there a balance that makes sense? This morning, we will explore practical mysticism. Historically, mysticism is passed down through myths, such as those about the Greek and Norse nature spirits and minor gods, fairies, elves, naiads, dryads, and a pantheon of many, many more. Myths are traditional stories, especially those explaining some natural or social phenomenon, and typically involve supernatural beings. The dictionary definition of mysticism, and I quote, is the belief that union with or absorption into the deity or the absolute, or the spiritual apprehension of knowledge inaccessible to the intellect, may be attained through contemplation and self-surrender. So both myth and mysticism have to do with the relationship with the gods, explaining things not accessible to one's intelligence. Myth is the story, but mysticism is the belief. There's one other important distinction worth noting. Myths and fairy tales, and for that matter, Judaism and Christianity, all generally place the agent or deity that has power over our lives external to ourselves. Humanism and Quakerism place it internal to ourselves. Tom will do the reading.
This is a reading from the Puritan preacher Jonathan Edwards, delivered and published in 1734. There is a difference between having a rational judgment that honey is sweet and having a sense of its sweetness. A man may have the former, that knows not how honey tastes, but a man can't have the latter unless he has an idea of the taste of the honey in his mind. So there is a difference between believing that a person is beautiful and having a sense of his or her beauty. The former may be obtained by hearsay, but the latter only by seeing the countenance. There's a wide difference between mere speculative, rational judging anything to be excellent, and having a sense in the sweetness and beauty. The former rests only in the head, speculation only a concern in it, but the heart is concerned in the latter. When the heart is sensible of the beauty and amiableness of a thing, it necessarily feels pleasure in the apprehension. It is implied in a person's being hardly sensible to the loveliness of a thing, that the idea of it sweet and pleasant to its soul, which is a far different thing from having a rational opinion that it is excellent.
Thank you. You may be wondering why there's a fairy looking through a telescope on the service announcement and a fairy on our altar table this morning. We're about to invite these fairies to open us to the world of curiosity and imagination that many of us older folks likely set aside after childhood, an important world of wonder. Our story for all ages is a contemporary fairy tale. It's a magical story designed to make the young feel older and the old feel younger, and to help us appreciate how enchanted the world truly is. If it helps you to listen and visualize, feel free to close your eyes. Once among the trees. If you follow the sidewalk to its end and walk on among the trees until the stars shine without competition from human illumination, you may find yourself in the enchanted woods where this story unfolds. By day, the old forest seems harmless enough. At night, however, the trees grow still and listen, as if waiting for someone to speak in a forgotten language. No longer children, but not yet adults, Amy and Bob share a passion for the stars. At school, they speak easily of planets and light years, But alone, they often grow shy, as if a wind has blown away the words that might match their thoughts. In the deepening dusk, they follow a deer path among the trees. Amy clutches the precious telescope her grandfather gave her. Bob carries the sturdy tripod for her. If we hurry, we can see Jupiter before the moon rises, Amy says. Her voice wavers between confidence and something softer. Fireflies circle the couple in chaotic constellations, their flickering flares mimicking the stars. Bob uses a small flashlight to show the path. By and by, they emerge into a small grassy glade that offers a clear view of the Milky Way. Bob checks his star chart app, its glow red, to preserve their night vision. Amy sets the telescope on its tripod. Above, Jupiter reflects the unseen sun. High in the branches, woodland fairies awaken. Younger than the forest, they are older than the town. Playful but wise, they delight in reading the hearts of the few humans who wander into their territory after dark. Invisible, they hover, listening to the shy hopes the two young stargazers carry in their hearts. "What a pretty pair," announces the eldest fairy, her silver wings shimmering. "But their tongues are tied. Perhaps they need a nudge." Her voice sounds like a whisper of wind in the willows. Hovering near Amy, another fairy listens to her anxious thoughts. "I hope he enjoys doing this with me. I hope he doesn't think I'm silly. Maybe he'll hold my hand." The fairy giggles. She looks upon him with wonder and favor. Another fairy listens to Bob's quiet musings. "She's brilliant. I don't want to ruin this by sounding like a know-it-all, but I wish I could tell her how much I like her." The fairy smiled. "Kind he is, and thoughtful too." "The forest favors hearts in harmony," declares the eldest fairy. "These two had best be bold." She lets a spark of courage fall into each of their minds like seeds taking root, glowing and growing. After adjusting its pointing, Amy peers into the telescope. She sees Jupiter's streaked orb and, like bright beads on an invisible thread, 4 moons in an arc around the planet. "Look, Bob," she breathes. He leans toward her and gazes into the aperture. "Io, Ganymede, Callisto, and my favorite, Europa," he offers softly, almost reverently. "So beautiful." Amy likes the warmth in his words. "Why are you so fascinated by Europa?" she asks after a moment. Bob reflects, then replies, "Because it's so much more than a space rock. Beneath Europa's ice, there may be a hidden ocean, a place where life might bloom in the dark. It reminds me that mysteries often lie deep inside, hard to find, but full of possibility." Something in his tone, gentle, thoughtful, settles between them like a lantern's glow. "People are like that too," Amy adds. "Not everything worth knowing is on the surface." An owl hoots from a hidden branch. The boy and the girl each feel the strangeness of the night, the focused precision of science contrasting with the powerful presence of something older, more visceral, becoming woven together under the forest's spell. As the stars wheel slowly overhead, Amy and Bob speak softly about planets and their orbits, but also about their own dreams and about the patience it takes to understand people, not just equations. The moon rises, filling the glade with silver light. While the couple talk, heads together, the curious fairies take turns peeping into the telescope themselves. The forest listens. When at last the tripod is folded, Bob takes Amy's hand and they turn homeward. Whispering a blessing, the fairies slip back into the trees, leaving whirls of fireflies in their wakes. And if you ever follow the sidewalk to its end and walk among the trees on a starry night, you may hear the forest fairies whispering. Wisdom grows quietly from the head that questions, from the heart that listens, and from the curiosity and imagination that unite them. There are many ways to contribute to the life of this congregation, and we are grateful for all of them. Money is only a medium of exchange. As the offering baskets pass, please reflect on the generosity of all those who have exchanged their time and effort to create this institution and further its mission. If you're here for the first time, please let the basket pass. Your presence among us is gift enough.
Inspiration plus inclination plus contemplation. Show the way. Inspiration plus inclination plus contemplation, show the way. A fire, a light, wisdom, a beacon shining bright. Seek truth in love. Seek love in truth. Inspiration plus inclination plus contemplation. Show the way. What we do know is there is something, and we will know when it's time.
Thank you for your generous contributions.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Dinah. And thank you all for coming to learn something more about mysticism. Not necessarily the usual topic here, I'm sure. But this morning I'm going to talk about mysticism, and in particular, what Quakers call mystical, or practical mysticism, which is how we are dedicated to attuning our lives to the movement of spirit, and how we experience the inexplicable and non-knowable in our lives. Have you ever been looking for help solving a personal problem, and you walk up to the bookcase and find just the right book, or a poem, or a quote you feel was meant just for you at that moment? Or have you simply walked outside to find a glorious ray of light beamed right on you? Or has your whole heart and soul been captured by witnessing the birth of a child, or being bedside at the time of someone's death? These are examples of experiential moments of life that can't be adequately described, but they bring us into a transcendent awareness of the profound mystery that encircles our lives. Since the beginning of consciousness, humans have attempted to name the phenomenon of awe and wonder they experience. Archaeological and religious history are full of symbols, words, creeds, and records of attempting to secure and maintain a personal relationship with the power of the mystery in nature and the complexity of life they are experiencing. We have given the source of these expressions different names: creator, divine, the holy, goddess, among others, but the most commonly used names are God and Spirit, and those are the ones that will be my primary references this morning. But ultimately, I agree with the Jewish tradition that acknowledges there is no adequate name for defining that higher power, which is a transcendent mystery in our lives. So they have traditionally referred to the great mystery as YHWH, often pronounced as Yahweh, which is simply translated, I am. But however we name the mystery, we experience in our mind, body, and souls, it is fair to assume some form of awe universally experienced by all people. For me, access to these universal experiences of spirit are an affirmation that there is something inherent in every person's very being, perhaps in our souls, that opens us to experiences of wonder and awe, something that is transcendent, more spacious, more imaginative than our regular consciousness. For millennia, indigenous people around the world have experienced awe and found deep connections in the natural world, where they experience animals, plants, sun, moon, four directions, their personal being as fully sacred. In that sacredness, they find a sense of unity with all creation that becomes the fundamental reality of their very existence. The ancient Celts also found awe in the unknowable spirit they saw in all creation, including animals, brooks, grasses, everyday relationships with their friends and family, their work. And this profound experience of awe and the unity of creation is the essence of what I mean by mysticism. Let me read that again. And this profound experience of awe and the unity of creation is the essence of what I mean by mysticism. In his memoir, Dave Kaufman suggests our expression of the transcendent we experience is a kind of enchantment. I like that, which is also a delightful word to substitute for what I'm referring to as mysticism. Or perhaps the term spiritual may be a more acceptable term for most of us, as in, I'm spiritual but not religious, meaning I am often profoundly aware of the awe and grandeur of life, but I don't ascribe to a common reference point for it in any organized or philosophy of religion. Sounds like Unitarians. Friends believe we are all capable of having an immediate and unmediated connection with this higher power, which makes it possible for us all to be mystics. My own mystical tradition, Quakerism, is to Christianity what Zen is to Buddhism and what Sufis are to Islam. And all three of these mystical traditions begin with worshiping a listening within, and then discerning and acting on what they have heard. Like Buddhism and the Sufis, Quakerism tries to establish a bridge between our personal mystical experience of transcendent awe and how we live our daily lives. Again, what we are trying to do is establish a bridge between our personal and mystical experiences of transcendence and awe and how we live our daily lives. And this bridging practice is what many Quakers call practical mysticism. And we ground our practical mysticism in our silent meetings for worship, where silence is our sacred medium for accessing spirit. As theologian Thomas Keating commented, that God's first language is silence. Everything else is a poor translation. God's first language is silence. Everything else is a poor translation. So we sit in quiet worship together, waiting to experience the sacred hush of a spiritual presence. When I explain that our meeting for worship consists of sitting in a circle of silent friends, sometimes with a spoken message, but often entirely in silence, people usually say, I could never do that. Sitting in prolonged silence is so outside our daily practices of conversation, meetings, activities, following schedules and making plans. And it still sometimes amazes me that I'm able to sit through Quaker worship, even though I've been doing it happily now for 50 years. Quakers are not only mystics, we are non-creedal. Our one sacred belief is the unifying principle that there is that of God in all people and all creation. And we believe people of all faiths are capable of experiencing sacred moments of spiritual connection that, like love, is beyond explanation. So in terms of theology, we ask not what the Bible or the wisdom of the ages say, but rather we ask, what do you say? What do you experience with Spirit? What can you affirm about your faith in the inexplicable presence of a transcendent higher power? And thus, friends accept a broad range of declarations of faith similar to the spiritual orientation of the Unitarian Universalists. Quakerism is unique, especially that it is a group mysticism. And former Whidbey resident Sharon Parks claims that our group mysticism makes us interdependent mystics because we need one another to help us discern what we hear in our worship and then discern how we are to live what we've heard and lead it into the world. And we need one another because we know we can and do get whatever we hear in the silence wrong in any given day or hour. And one of the ways Quakers discern messages they receive in the silent worship is with clearness committees. Some of you may have been part of a clearness committee, I don't know. So if a member of a Quaker meeting feels they have received what friends call a leading, others might refer to it as a calling to get married, change jobs, be involved in serious social action involving disruption in their life, they will ask their Quaker meeting to appoint a clearness committee to meet with them. The clearness committee will then meet with them in worship, not with the intention of solving their problem or directing their leading, but with the belief that each person seeking help can, through prayer and queries, find within themselves the answers they seek. That's the practical mysticism of our little Quaker clearness committee. We often say God doesn't usually tell us what to do in many words, but it's amazing how even in the most common moments of life, Spirit often nudges us to action once we ask. Suddenly books open to significant passages. Being with our child brings new attention to childhood. Chance events reveal opportunities to give as gifts or satisfy our needs. Messages may come during dreams, meditation, or prayer in the form of images, words, or feelings in our bodies. Or we may wake up one morning with that feeling of just knowing. So we find our leadings by paying attention to the present moment. One of my Quaker mentors, Fran Tabor, said that she tried to discern and follow leadings in her daily life by always keeping an open ear cocked inside and listening with that inner ear about what felt right in any given moment. Listening within and following leadings is not always easy because we're sometimes led to do things we're reluctant to do. Friend Bill Kreidler used to say that one of his tricks he had for avoiding a leading was to tell God he would take the leading under advisement. Good idea, God. Let me think it over, and I'll get back to you. But the trick doesn't work. Not really, because if it's a true reading, you're not going to turn it down. So Quakers have been trying to discern and follow their leadings for over 350 years, even though they would rather not. Another way Quakers live their practical mysticism is through their participation in Quaker business meetings, which are called meetings for worship for the purpose of business. We conduct our business while we are in worship because we seek to discern God's will together. And because we need and seek unity rather than consensus, the entire community needs to be able to affirm all decisions. And this communal attentiveness to spirit, combined with a willingness to engage in group discernment for clarity, have defined Quaker history, the Quaker history of social and political action. I once ran into a friend from the divinity school who had become an Episcopalian priest, and he told me, I love the Quakers, but I can never be one because your decision-making process of seeking unity would give me an ulcer. Then he said, but here's what I don't understand. How do Quakers keep ending up on the cutting edge of social issues with a decision-making process that requires the community to find personal and spiritual unity? I laughed and I said, it's not despite our decision-making process, it's because of it. Because there is a spiritual power that comes from listening within and threshing things through as a worshipful and attuned community that allows us to be faithful to what we are called to do in the world. And this discernment process has led Quakers to the forefront of social issues for 350 years. And so I invite you to also look deeper in your own soul and explore how you might foster and nurture a mystical, faith-based dimension in your life. If you do not already do so, perhaps you may want to commit to take time for daily times of silence and quiet meditation, even amidst the busyness of your daily schedules. Are you willing, able, and trusting enough to invite friends to join you for a clearness committee? If you are interested in learning more about mysticism, I was interested to find that the Unitarians actually have an organizational wing that's called UU Mystics in Community. And I'll leave it up here for you to look at. It's at QuakerMystics.com or something like that. And of course, you have access, if you want more information, to borrowing from our Quaker library, which is in the little back room here. And so I invite, I would like to close with a Chinook blessing, which, like Quaker practical mysticism, invokes the great unknowable mystery that surrounds our lives to teach us and show us the way. We call upon the earth, our planet home, with its beautiful depths and soaring heights, its vitality and abundance of life, and together we ask that it teach us and show us the way. We call upon the mountains, the Cascades, and the Olympics, the high green valleys and meadows filled with wildflowers, the snows that never melt, the summits of intense silence, and we ask that they teach us and show us the way. We call upon the waters that rim the earth, horizon to horizon, and flow in our rivers and streams, that fall upon our gardens and fields, and we ask that they also teach us and show us the way. We call upon the land which grows our food, the nurturing soil, the fertile fields, the abundant gardens and orchards, and we ask that they teach us and show us the way. We call upon the forest, the great trees reaching strongly to the sky with earth in their roots and heavens in their branches, the fir and the pine and the cedar, and we ask them to teach us and show us the way. We call upon the creatures of the fields and forests and the seas, our brothers and sisters, the wolves and the deer, the eagle and the dove, the great whales and the dolphin, the beautiful orca and salmon, which have our northwest, which share our northwest home, and we ask that they teach us and show us the way. And we call upon those who have lived on this earth, our ancestors and our friends, who dreamed the best for future generations, and upon whose lives our lives are built. And with thanksgiving, we call upon them to teach us and show us the way. And lastly, we call upon all that we hold most sacred, the presence and power of the great Spirit of love and truth, which flows through the universe, to be with us, to teach us and show us the way. So may you find a quiet, sacred space within yourself to root the practice of practical mysticism, a daily life of listening to the Spirit. And may it deepen and guide your life during this challenging era. Peace and thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Please rise in body or spirit to sing hymn number 352, Find a Stillness. It's time to extinguish our chalice and return to our daily lives. After the postlude, please stay for coffee and conversation. Here, in this place, in this community, let us go forth this week, devoting our attention where it needs to be, caring for ourselves and each other. Go in peace. Blessed be.